One of the biggest impacts to my life has been becoming a luxury minimalist. You may be wondering, how is luxury paired with minimalism? Well, it's actually very simple. Luxury minimalism is about being intentional with the things and experiences you let into your life and making sure that they're always high quality. So that's quality people, quality goods, quality habits, quality lifestyle. And I don't equate quality with a price tag, by the way. It's all about lasting value. It's important to navigate through the digital age, I think, with this in mind, and only allow things in our personal spaces that enhance us on an individual level. I used to own a lot of stuff. Like most Americans, I owned far more things than I needed. I had a lot of stuff collected from years of scrolling through the internet and Amazon and seeing these new cool things that I suddenly feel like I have to have, used it once if I'm lucky, and then tucked it away with the rest of my stuff in my pile of shame. A pile that had grown and grown into a monster of wasted money and, quite frankly, too much space being taken up. Well, I couldn't stand it any longer, and I got rid of it all and decided that I no longer wanted my life to be like that. Now, I've been a minimalist since I was a teenager, and throughout the years, I have done countless declutters. I have dipped in and out of extreme minimalism. I've made attempts to be as frugal as possible, and I've also gone through periods where I pretty much spazzed out and started buying things in large quantities again, only to regret 99% of my purchases within merely a few months. Eventually, though, I discovered luxury minimalism, and it has changed everything for me. A lot of us have been tricked by the media to believe that we are getting a great deal on cheap items, and it'd be a shame to miss out on it all. Therefore, we always have to act fast and get it now before it's too late. And then we've also been tricked by our peers into thinking that if you're lame enough to not have the latest and greatest Amazon gadgets, aesthetic clothing style, and random products to match your new aesthetic that the cool girls on TikTok are into, then you aren't worthy of having a following. So we buy so many things we don't need and rarely use. You may not think of yourself as someone who has too much stuff, but there's a high chance that, just like the past version of me, you are. So it's not easy to tackle the process of getting rid of your stuff, but it's a process that might be necessary for many of us. But first of all, what do I even mean by stuff? I consider stuff to be specifically items that I bought out of a lack of judgment for its long-term place in my life. So for example, I thought this shirt would be cool and it could potentially be something that I would wear often, but it turns out that I never really reached for it. Maybe it's the Stanley Cup you bought to be a clean girl, even though you already bought a Hydro Flask last year when you were that girl. Stuff is whatever you spent your hard-earned money on for something that you don't really need, or it's a bad purchase, or you hardly ever use it, if ever, and now all it does is take up space, making you feel crowded in your own home. But despite the fact that you and I both know that you will never wear those shoes or use that hot wax machine, you still have a hard time letting it go. You'll trick yourself into saying, oh, but I plan on using it someday, I just haven't had the opportunity yet. Stuff is tricky like that. Stuff will make you feel like you need it and that you aren't allowed to say no to getting more of it, especially if it's the trend or at a low price. What about when the stuff you have isn't a bunch of cheap, random, TikTok made me buy it impulse purchases? It's actually good stuff. You figured that it would be a shame to pass it up. It's such a great item and it's well made. You don't need it, but it's not useless junk, so it's okay, right? Well, buying the most luxurious version of a thing you don't need doesn't make it more useful. It's still a thing you don't need. It's not enough to be high quality. It also has to have real value to your life. Luxury minimalism solves so many problems because it is about having only the things you need, and of those things, they're also the best quality you can get. This can be in relation to your income. This can be in relation to how you choose to source things. For example, the best sofa you find secondhand may be different than the best sofa from a furniture store. The best quality you can get on a budget may be different than the best quality a millionaire can get. So do keep these things in mind. When I say best, I always mean in relation to your specific circumstance. And I'm also not referring to anyone who is truly living penny to penny, unable to even really have a say in the matter of how quality the items they have are, because they just need to get by. So luxury items, and I'm not strictly referring to luxury brands like Chanel and Dior, I mean even items made by expert craftsmen in your area. I mean items that are made from great materials, things like that. So luxury items tend to be intentional and of sound quality that can last and stand the test of time. The very nature of luxury is minimalism's best friend. A minimalist wants items that will last years, not something that will break down or wear out in just a few months. That leads to excessive spending and isn't a sound way to live an intentional life. Therefore, even though it may initially sound like there are two opposing ideas, one can partake in both luxury and minimalism. With the luxury minimalist lifestyle, we add the notion that the things you own are very high quality, and those items are enjoyable to own. Luxury minimalism is not about being frugal, nor is it anti-consumerism. Rather, it is about investing thoughtfully and having a simple amount of quality items for your lifestyle. There's no specific aesthetic for this. There's no specific color scheme you have to follow. There's no specific brands you must buy from. It will all depend on your preferences and particular circumstances, especially in relation to your income. So, adding on to that, luxury minimalism is not just about physical items. It also relates to our digital lives, choosing to spend our screen time in a way that is high quality, valuable, and enjoyable. By making these changes, I've drastically reduced the amount of time I spend online and heavily culled down the places I visit and accounts I follow. Is this the best source for this information? Am I actually having a good time? Am I learning anything? Is there a sufficient amount of inspiration I'm getting? Am I just being numbed, or is this actually good content? What I find is that I only need a very limited amount of places I visit online to satisfy my needs. Because of the luxury minimalistic principles I follow, I think things over more now before I make a purchase. I care much more about the long-term usage of my items. I only buy things that I'm truly in love with and can't stop thinking about. I'm much more willing to wait way longer to save up for something great rather than choosing just any old thing or a low-quality substitute. I can no longer tolerate cheap content online and would much rather go do something entirely different altogether rather than spend time looking like a zombie staring at a screen that I'm only barely being entertained by. I need high quality friendships, and I won't choose to just be around anybody just for the sake of not being alone. This intentionality is making my life more high quality as a whole, and that is something I want for all of you. Even if it means saving a few dollars here and there to very slowly upgrade the low quality items you currently own with more luxurious versions of them, I think the results will be worth it.